This is Lenrod Nzulu Baraka, correspondent for Crazy Ass News Network, the only news network dedicated to exposing shit in high and low places. In this edition, I'll be exploring the topic religion, opiate of the masses or gateway to insanity. Don't go away, we'll be right back. It was Karl Marx who famously stated that religion is the opium of the people. This statement has been interpreted in two ways, one of which is that religion is a medicine to soothe the hurts and pains of the people. The other way is that religion is a drug that gives people a false sense of security. I think I will let the doctors of religion and philosophy fight that one out. What I would say is that religion does have some drug like qualities, and that people literally get high on religion. Now, when a preacher can tell his congregation that God will kill him if they don't give him $8 million in 3 months and gets instead of the $9 million in 3 month period, you know that somebody is hitting the crack pipe really hard. It's as though the God these preachers believe in and preach about is putting a hit on the preachers, extorting them to get some extra cash. And if they don't come up with the cash, then the hit is going to be carried out. He's going to kill them. Now, if you think that that Marx was bad, then Freud was even much worse because Sigmund Freud, he had a different view about religion. He did not buy into the notion that religious people were high. Instead, Freud said that religious people were loco, they were nuts, they were playing with loose screws, they were missing some of their marbles, or they were as mad as a hatter. Now, I can't argue with Freud when I read about religious leaders convincing their followers to strap bombs to their bodies and blow themselves and everybody who happens to be nearby into dimensions of non-existence. The Jim Jones and the Heaven Gates massacre, or rather I should say suicide, are simply beyond comprehension. In the Heaven Gate mass suicide, this was as nutty as it gets. Cult members actually believed that a flying saucer was coming to get them. Now, in order for them to get on the flying saucer, they had to separate from their physical bodies through suicide. Now, when you read such stories, all you can literally say is, holy shit. Now, preachers have been exposed on social media, involved in all kinds of crazy schemes. One preacher, for example, seemed to convince his parishioners to drink bleach. Apparently, the bleach was supposed to get rid of devils. And I believe that over 50 people may have died from that bit of lunacy. Then there was another story about a preacher who got his congregation to go out on a pasture and eat grass as though they were sheep. Apparently, this preacher told the congregation that the grass was heavenly manna, and they believed him, and they went out and started eating grass just like sheep. And of course, the one that tops it all off are the stories about preachers who have been recorded touching and fondling women's breasts and genital areas. It seems as though these are some of the Trumpian preachers. You remember that Trump said that when you're a celebrity, you can literally grab a woman by her vagina and they will do absolutely nothing. So these preachers are clearly following that particular line of reasoning. Now, you know that some religious folk can't be thinking straight when they give their last dollars to religious leaders who live in multi-million dollar mansions, own private jets, and fleets of luxury cars. I've always wondered why it is when churches and religious leaders need money, they come to their congregations and beg, demand, or extort the money by any means necessary. However, when church members need money, the religious leaders tell the church members that they should go to God. Now, unfortunately, before you can get the money from God, you have to prime the pump. And how do you prime the pump? You have to plant a seed. Church people are told that the more seeds they plant, when you're talking about planting a seed, we're talking about giving sometimes hundreds or thousands of dollars. The more seed you plant, the more God is going to give you back. That's what church people are told. And so while poor people are giving their last dollars to these religious leaders like merchants at the end of December laughing their asses off on the way to the bank. As the late great George Carlin said, God may be all powerful, he may be all knowing, he may be everywhere at once, but he has one problem. He just can't handle money. He always seems to come up a bit short and need people to help make up the balance. The hallucinogenic and mind distorting effects of religion was on full display on the African continent as the Catholic Church insisted that African Catholics should not use condoms, even as the AIDS epidemic was threatening to depopulate communities in Africa. The late Christopher Hitchens, in a debate on whether the Catholic Church was a force for good in the world, congratulated the Catholic Church for apologizing for its role in the genocide of the indigenous people of the New World and for the role of the church in the slave trade and in chattel slavery. Hitchens, however, adds that the Catholic Church should also apologize for the death of millions of African Catholics who might have remained alive were it not for the Church's ban on the use of condoms. Notwithstanding the growing body of evidence that comprehensive sexual education does not hasten sexual activity, that it encourages safer sexual behavior and an increased use of condoms. There's a growing backlash against comprehensive education in both Africa and the Caribbean. Truth be told, Africa and the Caribbean cannot afford to be as nonchalant and as debonair as conservative white Christians in the US, who are not facing down an epidemic of HIV, teenage pregnancy, and acute poverty. African people in the Caribbean just can't have the same mindset. People of African ancestry need to be more circumspect and more rational in our approach to issues that are impacting us. The challenges facing Africa and the Caribbean do not allow for political grandstanding or slavish devotion to antiquated religious myths and traditions. Public policy in Africa and the Caribbean and the rest of the world needs to be firmly rooted in facts, science, and rationality. Our political choices must be based on reason, not superstition, on science, not faith. This has been Lenrod and Zulu Baraka, correspondent for Crazy Ass News Network, where our motto is every day it's the same shit, just a few more assholes.